My name is Theresa Davis, and the night my mother ripped my college acceptance letter apart was the same night I realized some families fear change more than failure. I was 18 years old, standing in our tiny dining room in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, while scraps of cream-colored paper drifted onto the table between the dinner plates and folded laundry. My acceptance letter to MIT, full scholarship, housing included, every impossible dream suddenly real, had lasted less than 10 seconds in my mother's hands. "This is not who we are," she said calmly. No yelling, no dramatic scene, just certainty. In my family, the oldest daughter stayed home. Always. My grandmother stayed, my mother stayed, my aunt stayed. The oldest daughter cooked family dinners, cared for younger siblings, married close to home, and never chased a future that took her away. That rule existed long before I was born. Nobody wrote it down, but it lived in every silence around our kitchen table. I had broken it the moment I applied to college in secret. For months I lied about where I spent my Saturdays. My mother believed I was working shifts at a local bakery. Some weekends I was. The others, I was taking buses to testing centers, filling out applications in library corners, and mailing forms I prayed nobody would discover. When the MIT envelope arrived, I hid in the upstairs bathroom to open it. Congratulations. I remember reading that single word over and over until my hands shook. I had never actually planned to leave. Deep down, I thought getting accepted would simply prove I could have gone. That would be enough. Suddenly leaving was possible. Then my mother found the letter. That evening she tore it into pieces in front of me, while my grandmother watched television from the next room, and my younger sister stood frozen halfway up the stairs. Nobody defended me. Later that night, long after everyone slept, I gathered the pieces from the dining room table and taped them back together on the bathroom floor with Scotch tape from the medicine cabinet. At 4 a.m., I packed a duffel bag. At 5 a.m., I left home. The only person awake was my father. He stood in the garage pretending to fix an old carburetor. He didn't try to stop me. He simply handed me every dollar he had in his wallet, $80, and said, "For the bus." That was his version of love. I took a Greyhound to Boston with $300, a taped acceptance letter, and no real plan beyond survival. The first years at MIT were brutal. I worked dining hall shifts, lab jobs, and tutoring hours while carrying a full engineering course load. I slept in study lounges some nights. I ate cafeteria eggs paid for by a university advisor who recognized desperation the moment she saw me. I emailed home twice. Nobody answered. Then during sophomore year, my younger sister secretly contacted me. Her message was only a few sentences long. She told everyone at church you died. My mother had decided it was easier to explain my absence that way than admit I'd left. According to the town, I wasn't the daughter who escaped tradition. I was the daughter who no longer existed. That truth should have shattered me. Instead, it clarified everything. I stopped waiting for permission to become myself. Years passed. I graduated near the top of my class. I stayed for doctoral research. I joined a medical technology startup that unexpectedly exploded into success. Eventually, my shares became worth more money than anyone in my family had ever imagined. Still, I stayed away. Then one night, my father called again. "They're starting on Haley," he said quietly. Haley was my 5-year-old niece. Apparently, my grandmother and aunt had already begun planting the same expectations into her childhood. Stay close. Stay small. Don't dream too far away. The cycle was beginning again. That was when I decided to go home. My grandmother's 80th birthday became the stage. 30 relatives crowded into the old house when I walked through the front door after 7 years away. My mother barely greeted me. My grandmother raised a toast celebrating the Davis women who stay where they belong. Everyone lifted their glasses, except me and my sister. I waited until the room settled. Then I walked over to Haley, who sat on the carpet playing with the toy horse, and I placed the taped MIT letter in front of her. "This," I told her gently, "is proof that someone can say yes to you." My mother immediately ordered me to stop. I ignored her. Next, I pulled out a cream-colored envelope and placed it on the coffee table. Inside were legal documents for a $250,000 education trust I had created for every child in the family. College, trade school, whatever future they wanted. Nobody would ever have to beg permission again. The room went silent. My grandmother stood trembling beside her chair. "The oldest daughter stays," she snapped. I looked directly at my mother. "Then I'm not who you wanted me to be." That was the first time anyone in our family had ever openly rejected the rule. But I wasn't done. From my briefcase, I removed one final item. An old photograph of my mother at 18 years old, wearing nursing scrubs and smiling brighter than I had ever seen her smile. Alongside it was her own acceptance letter to nursing school, torn in half, taped back together. Just like mine. The room changed after that. Not loudly, quietly, because suddenly everyone understood the truth. My mother hadn't protected tradition because she believed in it. She protected it because she had surrendered to it herself. And surrender feels less painful when everyone else does it too. I left shortly afterward. No screaming, no dramatic goodbye. Just silence. 3 months later, my father called to tell me Haley had enrolled in a Saturday science program using money from the trust. A few weeks after that, a letter arrived from Haley herself. Inside was a child's drawing of a school building, with her name written across the top, in red crayon. Folded behind the drawing was my old MIT letter. Attached to it was a sticky note my sister had written for her. "I'm done with this one. I'll write my own." That note still hangs above my desk today, beside the Browning tape lines on my acceptance letter. And every time I look at it, I remember something important. Family traditions survive because nobody believes they can be the first person to walk away. Sometimes changing generations begins with nothing more than a torn letter and someone willing to tape it back together.